this, but we're starting. So, oh, Michael just left. Back to having a private lesson. So, cool. So we know. So on Tuesday we learned how the imperfect cadences and the interrupted cadence using two secondary triads, the chord 2 and chord 6. Michael, you're back. Now we learn how to precede the two, the imperfect cadence and the interrupted cadence. So we know that we should precede a perfect cadence with an imperfect cadence, and we know to precede a plagal cadence with 1, 5, or 1B. So how to precede an imperfect cadence is very fascinating and deserves an entire lesson today of its own. Let's do a 1 to 5 imperfect cadence in C major just to demonstrate. Cool. 1 to 5 imperfect cadence in C major can be preceded by you have a couple of options. 4, 4B, 1B, and 2B. That's your most preferable. That's like your that's the best way to proceed a imperfect cadence 1 to 5 in that order. So if you can't do 4, do 4B. If you can't do 4B, do 1B. If you can't do 1B, then 2B. So in that order of preference. So let's do a 4-1-5. Huh? Oh, yeah, I'm recording. Okay, let's do a 4-1-5 to start with. So that would be preceding an imperfect cadence with a plagal cadence. And we all know how that works. Okay, now I wonder if I tried fixing my audio settings. So see if you can hear this now. And I just realized I wasn't sharing screen. There we go. That's a plagal cadence preceding an imperfect cadence, and the entire chord progression is 4-1-5. 4-1-5. Now I wonder if you can hear this. Can hear it? Cool. Okay, brilliant. Yes, finally got my audio fixed. Okay, so that's to precede a 1 to 5 imperfect cadence using 4. You might want to take a note of this. Actually, no, I'm gonna screenshot this and put it in the Google Classroom after class. So, cool. And now, 4B 1-5 in C major. Let's try that. Now, you could probably put the D, you could probably put the A down there, and then the G down here, just to make some space for your tenor. Okay, and now, so 4 is a major triad in the major key, so that means we double the 3rd or the 5th. So that right there, I need to zoom in on this. Yeah, there we go. That's much better. Okay. So, that's 4B in closed position. Let's say we choose to double the 3rd. So we choose to double C. We can put C here, F here, and the other C right here. So notice that in first inversion, you cannot double the root, unlike with root position chords. You can't double the root in first inversion in 4-bar vocal style unless it's a minor triad. So 4 would be a minor triad in a minor key. So that means you could double the root if you wanted to. Okay, make sense? So, okay, next 4-1-5, we continue with oops, wrong notes. Okay, now another golden rule of four-part harmony is to try and make your voices flow smoothly to avoid consecutive octaves and fifths, and also something called hidden fifths, which isn't relevant now, but will be relevant in about 3 weeks' time. So we'll ignore hidden fifths and hidden octaves for now, but I do need to introduce you to them because it is also another big mistake that happens in four-part vocal style, comparative to, you know, comparative to consecutive fifths or octaves. But how would we fix this leap of a fourth? Well, we have a few options. We double a different note in first inversion, which doesn't seem I mean, you could do it if you omit that note. And here's something. We know we can't cross voices in four-part vocal style, but you definitely can make two voices sing the same note like that. So you can imagine the soprano and alto is singing the same note here. In which case, if you were to draw stems, you'd have that one note and you'd draw that stem like that. So that's supposed to say that both the soprano and alto is singing that note. So we can perfectly have that. That is, there's no problems with that. Let's just keep that there. That is perfectly fine. And then we'll continue 4B 1 5. Cool, let's listen to it. That's a 4B 1 5 progression, preceding a 1 to 5 imperfect cadence using 4 in the first inversion. Very similar to this 4 in the root position, except 4 in first inversion gives slightly better effect because first inversion chords sound unstable and in need to resolve to a root position. But let's listen to this. Cool. Okay, next. Preceding an imperfect cadence 1 to 5 with 1B. So 1B, so if you were to proceed or follow a root position chord with first inversion, that's not recommended unless in a cadence point with first inversion cadences. First inversion cadences, they also sound nice. So first inversion cadences basically like instead of 1 to 5, you can 1B to 5 is also a valid imperfect cadence. And 4B to 5 is also a valid imperfect cadence. And for that matter, so is 2B to 5. And for that matter, 5B to 1 is a valid perfect cadence, although it's not as resolving as the 5 to 1 classic generic imperfect cadence we're used to. And 4B to 1 is also a valid but not recommended version of the plagal cadence. Okay, moving on. So 1B to 1 sounds good because you follow that root position, you follow that first inversion 1B immediately with its root position chord. And by the way, I've been using 1B and 1/6 interchangeably. They both mean first inversion. It's just that they're notated slightly differently. Actually, it's not differentiable. 1/6, 1B, first inversion, same thing. Yes, 1B means we put E. So we always write our bass line first because it makes stuff a whole lot easier. So 1B 1 5. Now here's a trick. If there is a root position chord going to its identical first inversion counterpart, double the sixth in first inversion. So then you can have something very neat, which is basically, sorry. Yes, no. What did I do wrong? Yes. Double the sixth in the first inversion chord. You can triple the root in the first inversion, or you can you can do something very neat called a voice exchange, which is basically, notice how voice exchange happens when the soprano and the bass is moving in contrary motion and they exchange notes with each other, hence the name. So bass is singing E, soprano is singing C, and in the next chord, they exchange voices. Now soprano is singing E and bass is singing C. It sounds particularly good between the soprano and bass, not really in any other not really in between any other voices. And it's also good to make the voices move in contrary motion because it avoids common consecutive fifths and octaves. Yes, moving on. G. That's a 1B15 imperfect cadence. Let's listen to it. Notice that if I were to follow this chord progression up with a perfect cadence, it would actually sound spectacular. Let's try that right now. That supertonic to tonic ending means we need to triple the root, like that. Let's listen to it. So this chord progression is 1B151. Basically, imperfect cadence. Perfect cadence being preceded by an imperfect cadence being preceded by the root position of that imperfect, by the first inversion of that root position chord in the imperfect cadence. In case that sounds confusing, basically it says we're stringing a bunch of chords together to create a four chord harmony that it's also sort of like cadences that you smush together. I'm not trying to be yeah, Michael, what does B mean? B means first inversion. So there are a couple ways of notating first inversion. So 1/6, 1B, and so 1/6 and 1B, they mean the same thing. So they both mean chord 1 in first inversion. And 4B means chord 4 in first inversion. 4/6 means the same thing. So 4B and 4/6 can be used interchangeably. Another one you might come across is 1/6/4, and that means second inversion. I don't want to confuse you right now because second inversion you don't encounter until grade 5 or 6 theory, and you generally don't use it too much in passing four-bar harmony anyway. But anyway, now we've got a 1B151. 1B151 chord progression, and let's pick out some technicalities of this. 1B, 1, root position chord following a first inversion chord, soprano and bass moving in contrary motion and doing voice exchange. Brilliant. 1/5 is an imperfect cadence. That's immediately followed by 5/1, a perfect cadence. Let's listen to it. Cool. So now you know the way to do it. Okay, there is one final way to proceed a imperfect cadence 1 to 5, and that is with 2B. 2B would be your last resort. There are honestly so many better chords to precede a 1/5 imperfect. But if you're ever stuck and 2B seems like your only option, absolutely go for it. The only reason to not use 2/1, use 2B1 is because 2/1, much like 4/5, so 2 to 1 chord progression, much like 4 to 5, the imperfect cadence 4 to 5, is very easy to create consecutives if you're not careful. And generally 2 is a minor chord, and following it up with a major chord without being resolved somewhere in the middle sounds sort of ugly in general. So if we wanted to use 2 to 1 or 1 to 2, or vice versa, use one of the chords in first inversion, most likely 2, because then it gives the need of needed to being resolved. My tongue is dead today. Needing to be resolved onto a stabler chord. Let's see that in action. Okay, 2B firstly. This is chord 2 in C major. Chord 2B is that. You put F in the bass. 1, 5. Okay, and since 2 is a minor chord in the major key, we can choose to essentially double any note. Let's go for A. So yeah, there's no like specific guidelines to choose which chord note to double. You can choose a random one to double at first, but if your voices aren't flowing smoothly, probably you should consider doubling a different note. So let's just go with A for the time being. That, and then E and C. Sorry, wrong. What did I do wrong? Oh no, nothing. G and put that G there and make that into a B. Notice how a leap of a third can be accepted as long as there's a leap of a third can be accepted. Anything of a leap of more than a fourth might be a little too much. So in 4-bar vocal style, avoid leaping too much. It can create hidden fifths, which we're not going to be concerned about for the time being, but just know that you shouldn't leap too far in when writing 4-bar vocal style. And now, something interesting happens here. When you are taking most likely when you are, following a first inversion chord by a root position chord, you get consecutive fourths. And I just realized I accidentally put a consecutive, there's actually a consecutive octave in there. So that's my bad. I need to fix that. Consecutive fourths are okay as long as there isn't too many of them in a row. You might think that consecutive fourths is the inverse of consecutive fifths. It might sound like the same way as a consecutive fifth does, but in actuality, no, it doesn't. Curiously, you're allowed consecutive fourths as long as you don't put too many over the row. So keep that in mind. I just need to fix this consecutive. So notice how there's consecutive octaves down. No. There's consecutive octave that is there's a consecutive octave that is now made. So that means we'll probably have to consider doubling a different note. Let's try F. So we can double the root in this first inversion chord, since 2 is a minor chord, and we can double any note we like in a minor chord. So now we change that to an F. Now we're good. We solved that consecutive octave by simply doubling a different note. And as a bonus, we also made our tenor and alto move in contrary motion. Very nice. Okay, let's listen to this. Cool. Okay, I'm going to screenshot this. I should probably put the chord notes in, which I'm going to do right now. 1, 5, 4, 4, 6, 1, 5, 1, 6, 1, 5, 1, and 2 has to be lowercase since it's a minor triad. 2, 6, 5, sorry, 1, 5. Okay, I'm taking a screenshot of this. Just bear with me. Okay, cool. Screenshot taken. Just waiting for it to load. So, right, cool. The other imperfect cadence that we were recently introduced to is 4 to 5. And now I'm going to teach you how to proceed 4 to 5. Michael, good to see you home and you're having dinner. Okay, 4 to 5 works like, wait a second, I'm just trying to check if there was any, okay, no, nothing. Okay, doesn't matter. Yeah, okay, 4 to 5. Couple of options to proceed a 4 to 5. Well, Michael, it's not necessarily hard to follow. Remembering is kind of just sort of there's not really any good way to remember this unless a lot of practice, which you definitely should be doing. And it shouldn't be hard to follow though, because it's basically an extension of what we were doing on imperfect cadences and bunch of 4-part vocal stuff and then fusing them all together.
Yeah,
so
I think I just mainly don't get this because it's sort of like when we were doing intervals in grade 2 music theory. It's just like I haven't done a few classes and I've sort of lagged behind.
Okay, wait a second, Emma, do you understand, like, do you follow like everything I'm talking about?
Sort of, but it's
Sort of? Okay, from the, okay, I'll explain this from the beginning again. You have 1 to 5 imperfect cadences. You can proceed a imperfect cadence with 4, 4, 6, 1, 6, or 2, 6. Yes? 4 is easy. It's basically a plagal cadence preceding a imperfect cadence, which can then be follow a which then can precede a perfect cadence. So you can have like a 4-1-5-1. That sounds very nice. 4-6-1 4-6-1-5 is like the same thing except 4's in first inversion. 1-6-1-5 is resolving a root position chord it's resolving a first inversion chord onto a root position chord via voice exchange, the soprano and bass, which is basically the two notes, the two voices, they move in contrary motion and they switch notes. So in the first chord, E and C, in the second chord, C and E. They change notes. That's what's called voice exchange. And that sounds particularly good when you're going from a first inversion chord to a root position chord or vice versa. And then 2-6-1-5 is a minor chord, so you can double any note. And yes. Follow? Okay. Quick briefing. Okay, and now 4 to 5 imperfect cadence. Make sure that with 4 to 5 imperfect cadences, every single note goes down to avoid consecutives. So it looks like this. Okay, that's the right way to do a 4 to 5. The wrong way to do a 4 to 5. Why is that wrong? It's because every single voice stepped up. And now we've got consecutives abound. Consecutive. There's a consecutive up there. And then that's a consecutive, and that is also a consecutive. So consecutives abound if you were just to make every single voice move in similar motion. And now pardon?
Consecutives galore.
Yes, definitely. So that's why another general rule of 4-part vocal style is to move your voices in contrary motion as much as possible, especially between the bass and the soprano. Because if your bass and soprano is moving in similar motion, then you already know you're having trouble. You already know you might have some consecutives, because if the alto and tenor just like copied what the bass and soprano is doing, then you would inevitably have consecutives. So the right way to do a 4 to 5 is the bass goes up, every single other voice goes down. Okay, what are your options for proceeding a 4 to 5? 1, 1B, that's 1, 1B, 2 maybe, 2B would be better, and 5. So those are your options in order of preference. Okay, let's take a look at 1, 4, 5 first. This is pretty easy. You reverse a plagal cadence, dump it there, and then it's 1 to 4 imperfect cadence. Let's take a look at how this sounds. First how this looks like. Let's listen to this. I'm gonna put the chord indication notes in. This is 1, 4. Whoops. What is wrong? 4, 5. Wait a second. Okay, I think just for kicks, we're going to follow this up with chord 1 just to make a good, nice sounding melody. And actually, 1, 4, 5, 1 is a very basic chord structure, but it makes a very good harmonic. It makes a very good harmony, even though it's a very simple chord structure. And that's leading note to tonic. That's supertonic to tonic, so we have to triple the root. 1, 4, 5, 1 is a very basic chord structure, but makes a very nice sounding harmony. Observe. Very simple, but beautiful nonetheless. Okay. Will it make sense? Okay. Next, 1B 4, 5, 1. First, we put in the bass line. Oh no! Well, firstly, we marking the chords. Firstly, we're marking the chords, and then we're supposed to put the bass line. 1, 4, because chord planning is very important if you were to make a nice sounding melody. It's very useful to precede cadences with other cadences to form a nice chord structure. Like there is an infinite number of possibilities to precede any chord of a cadence. Like perfect cadences can be preceded by imperfect cadences. Imperfect cadences can be preceded by first inversion chords. First inversion chords can be preceded by another root position chord, or strangely, an interrupted cadence from the phrase before. But let's just listen to how this sounds, because I don't want to confuse you too early on. Hopefully I haven't already. Okay. 1, 6, 4, 5, 1. Actually, no, I'm gonna put this up here. So when you're doing 4-part harmony, do the bass line and soprano first, because those are mostly the easier voices to do. And then alto and tenor, they're they're just like harmonic filler parts. And a general rule for alto and tenor parts is that if they look and sound boring, that's actually a good thing. Alto and tenor is not supposed to have too much dynamic. The dynamic is in the soprano, which has, it's the highest voice, so it has all the enchanting melodies. Alto and tenor more like harmonic fillers, and the bass, which needs to be strong and supporting, because the bass line is supposed to be deep and rich. So most of the drama in 4-part vocal style happens in the soprano and the bass. If the alto and tenor look and sound boring, that is a good thing. Yeah, so don't be discouraged if your alto and tenor is looking like, not good. Okay. I think let's double see. And now, in a major triad, in certain emergencies, you are allowed to double the fifth. Like this. The only problem with that in doing it 4 to 5, creates consecutives. So we can't do that. But in certain cases, in major triads, you are allowed to double the fifth in an emergency. Since we can't do that here, our only option is to execute a bit of a leap. Like that. And then now the bass and the tenor, they sing the same note here. So they both sing G, because we have to make them move in contrary motion. And then this alto sings E. Sorry, no, it doesn't sing E. It sings D. That's my bad. And we just complete it. Cool, let's listen to it. Wait, any questions first? Or is everything clear, like how I'm constructing these four chord progressions using like generic sort of like cadences and a bit of tinkering with 4 parts? Does it all make sense? Okay, let's listen to it first. Now, the most important element of 4-part vocal style is that they sound good, obviously, because it's music. If it doesn't sound good, then it's destroyed what music is all about. So you can convert your 4-part vocal style compositions into piano style, which is what we learned in grade 3, and then try to play it on the piano to see if it sounds good. But since we've got this handy composing program, we might as well use it. Sounds very nice. Okay, final way to proceed a 4 to 5 imperfect cadence, and quite frankly, you probably wouldn't use this, but I'll show you anyway. This actually requires 5 chords to make it work. This very special chord progression is 1, 6, 4, 5, 1. You can't just put a 6, 4, 5, 1 there, because that 6 is a minor triad and it needs a major chord preceding and following it. So this 5 chord progression, let's put the chord indication notes in first. 1, 6 is a minor triad in a major key. 4, 5, oops. Oh, no. Yes. 5, 1. I think a better option actually would be to move the entire thing down an octave. Okay. This 5-chord progression 1-6-4-5-1 is actually quite common and also sounds quite nice if you can do it correctly. What I mean by doing it correctly is that you have a very good opportunity for some voice exchange in 1-6-4. How that would work? Something like this. Notice how the bass and the soprano is moving in contrary motion, and 6 and 4, it's not like realistically a voice exchange, but yes. So they're moving in contrary motion, and that is good. You want to make voices move in contrary motion as much as possible because, as I said, you can avoid consecutives that way. Let's draw in the rest of the soprano line. Good. We got the leading note in the tonic. We got leading note to tonic in the soprano. Let's fill in the alto and tenor. And then here's the thing. So remember how I told you that in chord 6 you double the third. Yeah. That only applies to that mostly only applies to interrupted cadences. But like since 6 is a minor triad, you can in all technicality double any note you want. So that's what we're going to do. So we doubled the root in chord 6. Let's listen to how this sounds. Firstly, check that there's no consecutives. The optimal way to check for consecutives is that you look at anywhere and everywhere where voices are moving in similar motion. Like for example, here, voices moving in similar motion, and then here, voices moving in similar motion. Okay, and what you do, you check that none of these intervals are a fifth or an octave, and these obviously aren't. So that's the optimal and just about the only way to check for consecutives. So right, let's listen to this. 5-chord progression, 1-6-4-5-1. Sounds brilliant. Notice how cadences, they usually contain only 2 chords, right? And now we've been adding 1 chord. We've been continuously adding 1 chord onto that 2 chord cadence until we come up with 5 chords, a 5-chord progression, and that is just about the longest sort of like chordal progression that you'll probably be given in the exam. Or chordal progression as a phrase that you'll be given an exam. You'll most likely be given something like this in the, sorry, no, not that. Let me just scroll down. You'll be given something like this in the exam. There's 1 5-chord progression that you have to end with an imperfect cadence. And then that's 3 chords. But that comes much later on. What I'm trying to do now is we take a cadence, we add a chord preceding, we add a chord following, and we already have a 4-chord progression. We add a preceding chord, and now we have a 5-chord progression. We keep on adding chords until we end up with a whole string of like a giant chord progression. And that is ultimately what we try to do in the end right here. This is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 chord progression. And in the exam, you'd probably expect something slightly longer than that, like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 chord progression. They probably won't give you anything more than 4 bars total to harmonize, which means that the maximum length would probably be a 16 chord progression. Probably won't happen though. But yes, what we're doing right now, we just keep tagging chords onto the end or the start of the chord progressions that we're creating, and then until we eventually get enough chords to create a whole string of chord progression that actually sounds nice. So it's a very gradual build up to a good chord progression. We've already got a 5 chord progression here, which means we're making good progress. Okay. I'm going to take a screenshot of this entire thing. And then quickly screenshot it. And my computer is very slow. Okay, cool. I just took a screenshot. So, okay. I'm just gonna quickly create a new. Wait a second. Wait a second. Wait a second. Wait a second. I'm just getting stuff ready. Right, cool. Next one. How to proceed a interrupted cadence. Now, I'm going to skip over how to proceed a 2 to 5 imperfect cadence, partly because 1 to 5 or 4 to 5 imperfect cadence is often much more preferable, and also because 2 doesn't actually have any good chord preceding it until you get to about 5th or 6th. Until you get to 6th rate theory, we get introduced to chord 3 and chord 3 and chord 7. And chord 3 is an adequate way to proceed a 2 to 5. We don't do that yet. And 1B25 sounds good. 125 sounds okay. And 425 sounds average. So that's just about your only options for proceeding a 2 to 5, unfortunately. So, and since there aren't many possibilities, I am ignoring it. Hooray. Okay, how to proceed an interrupted cadence. I'm gonna keep doing this in C major because I feel like it. Yes, okay. Let's write an interrupted cadence first. Make sure we have that leading note to tonic, and then make sure not to make every single voice step up, very common mistake. Similarly, with the 4 to 5 imperfect cadence as well. That's the right way to do an interrupted cadence. Since you guys didn't hear the oral effect of the interrupted cadence last time, I'm going to let you hear it this time. Sound like this. Now, why is there that questioning effect? As I said, 5-1 and 5-6 actually have a lot in similar. The only thing that's different is the submediant. And also 1 is a major triad and 6 is a minor triad. But that submediant creates all the dissonance in the interrupted cadence. And that's the submediant is what gives it that questioning effect. Okay, how to proceed a interrupted cadence? Simple answer. You proceeded with an imperfect cadence. Complicated answer. You can do it in many ways. But let's just start with some generic. Let's just start with a generic imperfect cadence preceding that. 1, 5, 6. Very simple. Oops. And let's put. Oh God, what have I done? And E there. That's 1. This is a 1, 5. 6 is a minor triad in a major key, and you can proceed if you're interested. You can proceed that you can proceed this one, you can proceed that one with a plagal cadence. I think we're gonna do that right now, actually. Add insert one measure. How do I do this? Okay, I have no idea how to do this, so I think insert. How do this? Counts, I still haven't figured out how to add sure append one measure. What have I done? I have no idea what I'm doing. Insert one measure. Just bear with me. Add. What? Okay, add mesh board, huh? How does? Okay, never mind. I'm just gonna redo that entire thing. That I just waste way too much time. Wow. So, 4, 1, 5, 6. We're gonna get used to writing some 4 chord progressions now. I think I'm gonna put that down there. So I'm just gonna write the chords in. 4, 1, 5. 6 is a minor triad, so lowercase. Okay, and now let's add in the soprano. So that is 4 to 1. That's a generic implagal cadence. So we're gonna put that note in common in the soprano, and then let's put the leading note tonic in the soprano as well. So, and now the alto and tenor. Also, something that you're going to have to get used to doing in longer pieces of harmony is to work backwards. The reason for that is when you're working backwards, you can much easier spot consecutives and hidden. Okay, since I've mentioned this so much, I might as well explain what a hidden fifth is. Okay, so a hidden fifth or hidden octave is it's sort of like a consecutive fifth or a consecutive octave, except as the name suggests, it's hidden from view. But it's still like illegal, for lack of words. Okay, it mostly happens between the bass and the soprano, and especially when both voices are leaping too far. Let's take a let's take a 2 to 5 imperfect cadence in C major because I'm just being lazy right now. If sorry, I just had a whoopsie moment. What did I do wrong? Yeah, no, I know what I did wrong. I'm actually going to do a 2b to 5 because it's a lot easier to demonstrate. So I don't know how to demonstrate this, but what I'm trying to say is, let's just suppose that was a B somehow. Okay, it's not like any it's not any chord in particular. But a hidden fifth is essentially if there is a fifth or a compound fifth interval between the bass and the soprano, and that hidden fifth, that interval of a perfect fifth is approached by a leap in similar motion, that is called a hidden fifth. And hidden fifths are similarly not allowed, sort of like consecutive fifths and consecutive octaves. And the reason hidden fifths are not allowed is because if two voices leaping in similar motion, well, there's already a couple of problems with that. One, you're not allowed leaps. Two, you're not supposed to be moving in similar motion. Three, you're supposed to avoid the interval of a fifth at all costs because it sounds empty. You're supposed to avoid an interval of a fifth, especially between the bass and the soprano, where it sounds the emptiest. But hidden fifth, get this. When I'm going to write down the exact definition for you in the chat. So, well, the exact technical definition of it anyway. A hidden, what? Oh, there we go. A hidden fifth or octave is when a fifth or octave between, especially between the soprano and bass. It can happen between other voices, but it's most, this mistake is most severe when it happens between the soprano and bass. It's also the most common between the soprano and bass because the alto and tenor aren't supposed to leap much anyway. A fifth or octave, especially between soprano and bass, that is approached by a leap in similar motion. Hidden fifth or octave is a fifth or octave, especially between the soprano and bass, that is approached by a leap in similar motion. Observe this example. That's leaping, and that's a fifth. That's a hidden fifth, therefore not allowed. And we are back to having a private lesson. So, how to avoid that? Honestly, just change to a different chord. Probably the best way to avoid that. Just change to a different chord. Right. Now we got that out of the way, you can have a break because my mouth is getting dry. We'll be back in 5 minutes. We're back. Michael, in case you're wondering what happened, we went for a 5-minute break. Okay, so back to how to proceed a interrupted cadence. We were doing a 4-1-5-6 when I got distracted and told you about what a hidden fifth is and also why you can't do it. So distractions aside, we know what a hidden fifth is now, which is why we need to avoid it. And let's see. Yeah, let's continue this. What did I do wrong? I know what I did. Okay, and then we have to make sure that all the other voices go down and that we double the third in chord 6. Let's listen to this. We double the third in chord 6. So yeah, we can't double the root in chord 6 otherwise, because otherwise it creates consecutives. Well, I mean, you could if you treated it the same way that you treated chord cadence 4 to 5, and you made every single other voice step down, but that's not always optimal because firstly, because the leading note still has to resolve to the tonic. So you're better off doubling the third and just doing it the right way. So let's listen to how this sounds. Not bad. And notice how that 6 creates a very questioning effect at the end. Okay, next, how to proceed next on how to proceed a interrupted cadence 1B5-1. And we can also proceed that with 4 as well. So our chord structure would be 4B, 1B, what did I do wrong? 5, 6. We just add the chord notes in. 4, 6. No, wait, no, what did I do wrong? No, we're not gonna use 4, 6 there. We're gonna use 4. But you can use 4 to 6 there if you want to as well. But the rule with two first inversion chords next to each other is that you have to double the third in one and double the sixth in order to prevent consecutives. So let's just say we were to go ahead with this 4-6-1-6 progression. We have to remember to double different notes in each of them. It doesn't matter which one you double, as long as you're doubling different ones too. And that's in order to prevent consecutives. And 6 has to be lowercase since it's the minor triad in the major key. Okay, now let's work backwards, because working backwards is often the way, because it's easier to spot consecutives. And if you did make a consecutive mistake early on, you don't have to go all the way. Working forward, if you made a consecutive early on the piece, you have to go back to that place, fix the notes, fix 3 chords after it, because then your voices aren't moving smoothly, and then that creates a ton of problems and wastes a bunch of your time. So work backwards. Not as much time. It's easier to spot consecutives, and if you did make a consecutive, it's easier to fix it. So we're gonna do this by working backwards. Let's fix in the soprano line first. Leading note to tonic in the soprano, as well as C, and let's put C there as well. So, and nice. So now we fill in the alto and tenor. Okay, make sure we're doubling different notes in these 2 first inversion chords. So if we were to double the third in 4, we would have to double the 6th in the other one. And in case you figure that this is a consecutive octave, since it's like, 2 octaves following each other, it's not because the only reason that's actually like stopping it from being a consecutive octave is because the C's aren't actually moving. You are allowed to have 2 of the same notes, even if they are in an octave, providing they don't move. If they move, that's a consecutive octave. If they don't move, like in this example, that's not a consecutive octave. That's just repeated notes, and that's perfectly fine. Let's continue. Sorry, I did say I was going to work backwards, but like I just sort of ignored that just for some easy demonstration. Okay. Let's before we listen to this, let's take a look at what's pretty good about it. I like the fact that the outer antenna lines are pretty simple. The chord structure is great. There's a bit of contrary motion going on, mostly, and there's the outer has a little bit of interest, but not too much. So keep the outer antenna boring, but not like very completely boring. Just keep it boring. It's not supposed to be interesting. The soprano and bass is where all the interesting happens. Is where all the interest happens. Okay. Let's listen to this. Yep, interrupted cadence. Cool. So these are all 4 chord progressions that you can use to precede a interrupted cadence. The interrupted cadence included. Right, what's next? Precede a interrupted cadence using chord 4 itself. And that looks like this. So oops. 4, 5. What am I doing? Oops. What am I double doing? No, that was not what I was supposed to do. I did an oopsie. Oh, yeah, no, never mind. 4, 5, 6. I think we're gonna put it down the octave. Okay. And let's try 1, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and now notice how we've got the soprano. We've got the bass going up. So if possible, we would like to make the soprano go down. So we have that nice contrary motion, maybe even voice exchange going on. And looking at this, voice exchange is actually perfectly possible. Let me just put the chord notes in. 1, 4, 5, 6. Okay. How can we employ voice exchange here? Well, for a start, not exactly like a voice exchange in a sense, but it qualified. And we have that's not voice exchange at all. Voice exchange only happens when you have 2 voices. When you have 2 voices that switch notes. So that's actually not voice exchange. It's just but what's good about this is that you have 2 voices moving in contrary motion, and that is a pretty good thing in itself. Let's do this. So we can put a G in the soprano so that we have contrary motion happening between the bass and the soprano still. Yeah, so wherever possible, do try to make the bass and the soprano move in contrary motion. It avoids consecutives and it saves you a lot of time. And okay, let's yeah. C, B, D, and then make sure to have every single note go down. This, and then C. There's a pretty big gap between the there's a really big gap between the bass and the tenor, in case you're wondering, like in case you're not comfortable with that. That's actually good. You want to keep the tenor as far away from the bass as possible because it gives plenty of like dynamic motion for the bass, because since the bass always has to sing the root of every chord, it's going to be jumping around a lot. If your tenor doesn't make space for the bass, it's not going to have any space to jump around, and it's probably gonna go like too low or overlap the tenor in some cases. So keep the tenor a good distance away from the bass. Let's listen to this. Firstly, is a bit of admirable stuff about what I've just written. Soprano and bass moving contrary motion, completely actually, and the alto and tenor lines overall aren't too interesting, but they're not like very completely boring either. And yeah, and this chord progression is actually pretty good. So let's try this. Wait a second, I'm just gonna try and get this up. Cool. Yep, interrupted cadence. Brilliant. Okay. How else can we proceed an interrupted cadence? 4B, so 1 4B 5 6, which is basically like this but flipped around. 1B 4 6 5 6, slightly less recommended, because of like that double first inversion taboo. It's not really taboo, it's more like something to avoid. If you do want to do it, make sure you double different notes in first inversion. What are your other options? Well, you proceed a imperfect cadence with a what was I gonna say? Yeah, with a with an imperfect cadence. So there is one more thing to consider. 2 5 6. Actually, there is also another thing to consider. 1B 4 5 6. And let's actually try 1B 4 5 6 right now. So these will be your bass notes. 1B 4 5 6. Now the bass is pretty high, but we actually can't do anything about it because we can't make the bass jump the octave, because E is technically out of range for the bass. So we have no option but to put it quite high. So that means we should keep the tenor an adequate distance away. Okay, let's put in the chord indications quickly. 1 6, 4 5 6. Cool. Let's start by filling in the soprano line. Now, the bass is moving by step up, so it would be very nice if we could make our it would be very nice if we can make our soprano move in contrary motion with the bass. Let's see how this might work. With the E. Okay, unfortunately, this might not work. The E down there. I had no option but to put a C there. We need that leading note tonic in there, but then everything else, can be in contrary motion. Actually, no, it can't, because we can't double the root. for a major tri, but like the soprano has to remain like this, unfortunately. But it would have been nice if we could have executed some sort of like contrary motion, which we could have if we did it like this. That's moving contrary motion, but there is something that's a sort of a no-no in this example, and that is right here. That is right here. Notice how the distance between the bass and the soprano is no more than a fifth. That means we're gonna have to squeeze the tenor and alto into that like little fifth gap. And we definitely could do that, but then that's gonna make for a very tight voice. Let's say we did it anyway. So we put a C there, another C there, D, B, and then a bit of contrary motion happening. Let's double the C, G. Well, I mean, it worked out pretty well, except like these two chords were sort of tight. And there's not like any problem with that. It's just, well, like some strict examiners might say there is a problem with that. The fact that like, you know, all the voices, they're too tight together and it makes for some voicing problems. But other than that, it should be okay. So let's listen to how this sounds. Okay, for an interrupted cadence. Okay, what else to consider? Imperfect cadence, 2 to 5. So how can we proceed a 2, 5, 6? 2B5, 6 is probably your first bet, along with 1B2, 5, 6, and that's actually just about it. Because you can't do 1, 2, 5, 6 because 1 to 2 isn't a very desirable chord progression anyway. Because 5 to 6 is a major triad to a minor triad. Similarly, 1 to 2 is a major triad to a minor triad. As a bonus, 1 to 2 is more prone to creating consecutives because it's not like 5 to 6 where you can double a different note. Well, I mean, you could double a different note, but you might actually still create consecutives anyway. So avoid 1 to 2 in general. If you want to use 1 to 2, use one of them in first inversion. Let's try 1B. Okay, let's first do actually no, let's first do 1B. 2, 5, 6. So the bass note, 1B, 2, 5, 6, and then other one was 2, 2, 5, 6. Actually, I think I'm gonna put the bass down an octave. Okay, cool. Let's just put the chord indication in. 1, 6, 2, oops. 2 is a minor triad in the major key, so it has to be lowercase. And 5, 6. This one, 2B. Actually, there would be a better one. 4. Actually, let's go with 2B actually, because we can do some fancy voice exchange. 2, 5, 6. Okay, let's try this. Okay, no fancy tricks, anything. It's not really like we can make the soprano sort of moving contrary motion. That would definitely sound nice. Let's work backwards. What am I doing wrong? Oh no, it's fine. Okay. D, C, and that G would be sung by both voices. Okay, let's listen to the other sounds. What's good about this? We've got the soprano diatonically ascending. Soprano, tenor and alto sounds pretty good. And this chord structure is very interesting. Let's listen to it. Where do I? There we go. Notice how when you get to chord 5, you'd expect it to go on to 5-1, right? But instead it surprises you with 5-6, and that's an interrupted cadence. The interrupted cadence is only effective because common listeners will expect it to sound like people would expect it to sound like this. So people expect it to sound like this. But instead, you take them off the trail with a interrupted cadence, and then they expect brilliant, perfect ending, but then they get a little bit of a minor chord, slightly sad. That's what makes the interrupted cadence so effective. Okay, final one for today, because we're just about running out of time. Now, 2-6, 2-5-6. No, I mean like 2B, 2-5-6, you know what I mean. Now this allows for some for some voice exchange. I like voice exchange because even though it's a very simple thing to do, it sounds like so good. And like when you're doing voice exchange, you have a feeling that like you actually know what you're doing, and that feeling feels nice. So voice exchange in that first inversion chord, and the soprano is pretty high. No problems there actually, as long as we keep the alto close enough to it, so the range doesn't exceed an octave. Okay, that's actually fine. It's just like that's an octave, but it's an octave. It's not more than an octave, so it's fine. A there, D there, D, and A. Okay. Now, what's good about this? My tenor is a very sufficient distance away from my bass. Good distance away from my bass, and so there's actually a sizable gap between all the voices in here because I put the soprano a little too high. So if you can put the soprano lower, like in sort of like it's in the middle of its range, somewhere between like G to C, that sort of like range, that's where it can have the best effect. So you can adequately space your chords without having them like too cramped together at the same time. Like this example, in this example, all the notes were spread out a little too far. Meanwhile, in this example, all the notes were too close. And that all came from the soprano being put too close or too far from the bass. So just something to watch out for. Okay, let's listen to this one and we're done. Okay, so today, quick recap, you learnt how to proceed a 1 to 5 imperfect cadence, a 4 to 5 imperfect cadence. You did a couple of 4 chord progressions, 5 chord progressions, and mostly 4 chord progressions. And with you learn how to proceed an interrupted cadence and put another chord before that to make a 4 chord progression. Hopefully today's lessons was helpful. I think this week your homework is going to be writing. This weekend your homework is going to be writing 4 chord progressions preceding cadences. So yep, have a good evening and I will see you next time. Bye. Bye, Emma.